Aljamain Sterling and Piotr Yan were coaches on Alpha Reality Global, kind of like the Russian version of Tough, and it looks like John Jones is going to be a coach on the new season.
Пройди, что ты боишься?
Alex Perez Twitter account tweeted out a tweet that said, "I always answer the UFC's calls, but if they want to play with me, we can do that. I've never spoken poorly of the UFC, but with what I just heard, I'm disheartened. I already had thoughts of not fighting anymore, and after what they just relayed to me, this may be the start." But Alex Perez says his Twitter account was hacked, and he has a great relationship with the UFC. Yeah, I mean, they seem to pay him well. He's their biggest star at the moment, and he wants a rematch with Ankalaev. UFC wants a rematch with Ankalaev. Ankalaev wants a rematch with Pereira, so everything seems to be going well. Ilia Topuria expected to announce his next fight tonight. Tonight we welcome 16-time UFC champion Ilia Topuria. He'll be sharing all the details about his upcoming fight in Las Vegas, June 28th, UFC 317. Interesting middleweight fight in the works. Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Dolidze, August 9th, the main event at the world famous UFC Apex. Dolidze just recently main evented at the UFC Apex against Vettori. He's on a 3-fight win streak after that win over Vettori at the Apex, which was a unanimous decision victory. 49-46 on all the cards. The judges all gave Dolidze rounds 1, 2, 4, and 5. Anthony Hernandez is on a nice little win streak at the moment. He's won 7 in a row, most recently over Kopylov, Michel Pereira, and Brendan Allen in February. Brendan Allen won the first round 10-9 on the scorecards, but after that, Hernandez won round 2 and 3 10-9 to pick up the unanimous decision victory 29-28. He seems to get better as the fight goes on. That may show in the fight with the Roman Dolidze, probably in rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. He'll really push a strong wrestling pace and pressure. Actually, he does that for the entire 25 minutes. These two were actually matched up to fight last year, UFC 302 in Newark, New Jersey, but Anthony Hernandez ended up getting a hand injury and pulled out. Anthony Hernandez probably wanted somebody higher up in the rankings, but if he beats Dolidze, he will move up one spot in the rankings from number 9 to number 8, assuming they're in those spots when they fight. At the top of the division, DDP says his fight with Hamzat should be announced soon. Amavov needs a fight. Strickland is a guy who Adesanya wants to fight next, so maybe they'll accommodate his desires and do that fight. Whitaker needs a fight. Bohayo needs a fight. Cannonier also needs a fight. Lower in the middleweight division, Kelvin Gastelum will be taking on Joe Pyfer June 7th in Newark, New Jersey. UFC 316, Marvin Vettori will be taking on Brendan Allen on July 19th. And Roman Kopylov and Paulo Costa will be fighting on June 28th. Arman Tsarukyan doing another grappling match. He's taking on Patricky Pitbull in a grappling catchweight bout at ADXC 10. That's May 31st at the end of this month in Moscow, Russia. Tsarukyan just did a grappling match the other day in Karate Combat's Pit Submission Series, won a decision in that one, and now he's doing this. He's waiting around for a fight. They did offer him Gamrot, and he turned it down. He felt disrespected by the offer because Tsarukyan's ranked number 1 and Gamrot's ranked number 7, so they weren't kidding. The UFC weren't kidding when they're saying you got to work your way back up to a title shot. They're giving him number 7, but he turned it down, so maybe they'll piss them off more. Maybe they'll give him number 10 next. Jack Della Maddalena says that he's brought in by the UFC to save the welterweight division, talking about how he's a finisher of fights, whereas Belal is not. 7 of his last 8 wins have been by decision. In his last fight with Leon Edwards, he had 12 minutes and 2 seconds of ground control time, but he only landed 6 strikes on Edwards on the ground, so that's like 1 strike every 2 minutes. And he had a lot of back control time, and he didn't have any submission attempts, so he had a lot of back control time, but didn't even try a single rear naked choke. So Bilal's improved in all aspects of the game, but the final frontier would be him getting finishes in fights. But JDM wants to make that a non-issue by beating Belal, and in his mind, saving the welterweight division.
One of my favorite lines out of you, Jack, is the UFC has recruited you effectively to save the welterweight division. Why does the welterweight division need saving?
I mean, he's a solid champion. I think the welterweight division needs a champion that's going to put on finishes, and that's what I'm here to do. Put on finishes, back-to-back finishes, and finishes in championship fights.
Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena have zero beef going into Saturday's fight. Bilal's biggest beef at the moment seems to be with Kamaru Usman.
And what do you make of Usman's, he's saying, like, if you guys are backstage together, you might need extra security after the issues you guys have had.
Who?
Kamaru Usman.
The former champion on a 3-fight losing streak. I would have to be afraid of that guy with no knees and no cartilage and a big head. Nah, man, I think I'll be fine.
Despite his issues with Bilal Muhammad, Kamaru Usman is picking Bilal to beat Jack Della Maddalena in the main event on Saturday, as is his podcast partner, Henry Cejudo. Gilbert Burns, who's fought both Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena, interestingly thinks if Islam Makhachev moved up to 170, he would favor Makhachev over both those guys, JDM and Bilal.
If Islam Makhachev moves up to welterweight and faces the winner, would you favor him against either Bilal Muhammad or Jack Della Maddalena?
Yes. I think he's that good. I think he's already big. I think he's already a welterweight. He just killed himself for making weight. You see, every time that he makes weight, he looks horrible. He just the skin coming he just is cool in skin coming to the weigh-ins, and then after the next day he's big again. I think he's a welterweight, and I favor him over Jack and Bilal. Not an easy fight, but yeah, I favor him.
Gilbert Burns is also a guy who moved up from 155 to 178, where he found his greatest success, working his way to a title shot against Kamaru Usman. Gilbert Burns is fighting next weekend in the main event against Michael Morales. UFC Fight Night, Burns versus Morales at the UFC Apex. Morales is a pretty big favorite in that one. Also on that card, Rodolfo Bellato versus Paul Craig. Bellato, pretty big favorite in that one, but Craig is a live dog until literally the last second of a fight. But he needs a win. He's lost his last 3, whereas Bellato is undefeated in his last 5. But his last fight was a tough one against Jimmy Crute. It was a majority draw. Jiri Prochazka swam 30 meters under ice to test his own limits. He has no fight scheduled at the moment. Maybe he'll take on the winner of Alex and Magomed Ankalaev.
I made it to the UFC, signed by Dana White.
I'd love to be one of the 100. I think it's such a funny topic, though. It's like, everyone's so serious about fighting this damn gorilla. What did he do? Yeah, it's a funny debate. 100 man definitely beats up a gorilla. And when you think about the intelligence of the human being, we conquered the planet, so the animals on it shouldn't be a problem to us. Definitely not solo. I would need a lot of help, but I think you get a bunch of the guys from the NFL roster, a bunch of the heavier guys from the UFC roster, and we had that thing down in no time. Let me lead the pack. I'd like to be a part of the first wave if we did that.
I'm Pascal Kraus.
This is Eric New Breed Coat. Joe K-San. Again. One more.